Welcome. You are at the CCC,
where there are no outside issues. Hello, I'm Bonnie Violet. I'm a trans femme, genderqueer, spiritual drag artist, and digital chaplain. And that's who I am.
My name's Anthony. I'm a 6-year doctoral student in clinical psych. I was not prepared for today's episode, but I still care about you.
Right on. And I'm Lulu, and I'm a Black gay man living in the Castro. I know, it's kind of the Castro. No, exactly. And I'm in recovery for alcohol, crystal meth. My pronouns are he and him, and fierceness.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm always in search of balance.
Nice. And each week we will provide and create a brave space where we engage in conversations around topics of recovery.
Yes, and our intention is to hold and inspire better spaces for people in recovery.
By tackling topics used to separate us. Sometimes.
I miss my cue.
We usually skip that one.
Yeah. But before we do that, like, subscribe, ding that bell, share, comment, and get the word out.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Join the fun.
Yes.
Awesome. Hello. How is everybody?
Hi, we're good.
Fuck, we haven't seen each other in such a long time.
I know. Welcome back.
Yeah,
it's been a couple. We were out for a few weeks. Huh?
We were out for a few weeks.
Dang COVID.
Yeah.
COVID took us out.
Took us out
Yeah,
for 2
exactly.
weeks.
Got us without lube.
Oh, we have someone waiting.
No, that's okay.
When do we?
We'll bring.
I'm sorry. I don't know.
Okay.
Keep going.
It's not like he's waiting outside.
I know, you're right. I'm sorry. It's been weeks since we've done this. First, I want to thank everyone who were patient with us as we all healed. Thank you for all the well wishes. And if you're tuned in now, thank you for coming back.
Yes. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
how is everyone really?
I'm good. It's like I could never be better.
No,
things are good. I feel like I've gotten a lot of rest. We had enough time off.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We've been going full bore for weeks. So
yeah.
I'm pretty good. I obviously, if you're online, you can see that I have an eye patch on and my mouth is not quite working the same. Like I probably don't sound like, to me, I'm a little self-conscious about it. So I just kind of want to put it out there. But I have Bell's palsy, so half my face just isn't working right now. It's just taking a couple weeks off. It'll be back. So
yeah. Thanks, Bonnie Violet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Things have been okay. I had COVID. It was horrible. Then I isolated an extra week because I didn't want to walk around with a mask or feel like I was compromising people's health. So I was isolated for 2 weeks. It was totally crazy making. I felt like I was losing my mind. So I've been very grateful to be around people again. Also grateful that during that time I got a lot of work done.
Yeah.
I was just like home and
no, it's really nice. It's like I was throwing stuff out, cleaning. When I was at home with COVID, it's like things got done. I got rid of some stuff. I'm a reconduit everything.
Yeah. Hey, I'm reading that book.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice.
So
hi, Nora.
Hey, Nora. Nice to see you. Before we move on, should we introduce our co-host, our guest co-host?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So what's our guest co-host's name?
Nicholas.
It is Nicholas.
Hi, Nicholas.
Hey, Nicholas.
You want to?
Hi, gang.
To the folks at home.
Hi, everyone at home and all the ships at sea. My name is Nicolas A. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm delighted to be here. I've been in the program for 15 years, 15 years continuous sobriety, and it feels really good.
It's really nice to have you, Nicholas.
So glad
Thanks. It's nice to be had.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We both paused.
And what's our topic?
So today's topic is Save Me From Being Angry, which if you're in recovery, you have definitely been angry at some point. If you're a human, you have been angry at some point. So today we're going to talk about our experiences with anger, how we get over anger, how we hold those feelings, and basically anything that comes up during this conversation. As usual, we encourage you to chime in at home. You can message us on Facebook or on YouTube, and we'll read what you send in, as long as it's not
X-rated.
X-rated.
We still might.
That wouldn't even.
We might actually
still
do
might
it, to be honest.
whatever.
Yeah, actually, send up whatever you want. Okay, so I was just thinking about a conversation I had with a sponsee, and my sponsee was telling me that they were changing their behavior based on an experience that they had with a friend. And I remember thinking to myself, this sounds like a secret. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, very long story short, we did a quick spot check inventory, and we realized there was a resentment there, and what that brought up for me was, wow, this resentment one was really, like when we were first having the conversation, we had no idea it was a resentment until we like really sat down and listened to it. So it made me think about how sometimes anger is hidden and veiled, and we have no idea that it's.
Oh yeah, totally. I had to get sober and get into recovery to be resentful, like to be angry. Like I never, like that was never like an emotion or an experience I could allow myself to have. And so like especially once I got into the fourth step, like I was an angry little person. Like the F word was like the word coming out of my mouth in every sentence.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like if you catch the anger early, though, it's like it's a good thing? You just got to kind of, I think the more we hold on to it, the more it festers and the worse it gets. But like we're all prone to that initial explosion. It's just whether we can have that 10-second pause before we actually say something or do something in response to it. But, letting that flare of anger happen in our chest is a human, natural and human state of things.
Yeah. It's a very healthy, thing to happen for us to some degree.
I was looking at the resentment thing, and just a couple weeks ago, my sponsor and I we were reading Brene Brown, and
who's that?
something that was put out was that she said, I can't think of the person that she talked to, but she was speaking to someone, and they were saying, how we're instantly we think resentment and we think anger, but resentment is closer to envy than it is to anger, because I'm resentful because this person maybe is not doing what I want them to do, or is doing something that I want to do, or is living how I or is free, and I'm not free. So I just wanted to put that there. So
well, I think my first sponsor talked about how it always generally stems from this self-centered fear, this fear that everyone else is going to be taken care of, but I'm not. Somehow I'm going to be left behind, and everyone else is going to get taken care of. And it looks around, and it comes down to like comparing your insides with other people's outsides, and not understanding that everyone is suffering in their way, and not to let sort of it fester inside.
So many good things in the air right now. So I want to go back a little bit to Nicholas, what you said about catching it early. Can you say a little bit more about what is it that we're catching early, and what does catching it early look like?
Well, definitely you want to notice, I think as we get more deep in our recovery, we get better language about our emotions. I think a lot of us have the emotional intelligence of, as my sponsor told me at first, that I picked up where I left off. So if I started doing drugs at 16, I have maybe the emotional intelligence of a 16-year-old, and probably not a very emotionally intelligent one at that. So as I have progressed in my recovery, I've gained the language for what these feelings are. And that language really helps me pin down that it's not a bad mood, which sometimes I think I would just say, I'm in a bad mood, and it's not that. It's something's going on, something specific. You have to put words to it, and say it was because of something that this person said. And so in my mind, always, sometimes it's very easy to fill in the blanks. When that person said that, they meant this, and this, which may not be true. It tends to be my negative self-bias that takes whatever thing you've said and snowballs it into some great sort of judgment against me that you meant by what you said. And then I turn it into a resentment, and then I turn into a bad mood, and then I get angry. It's this whole process. So I think the first thing is not to assume what anyone means when they say something. And if something comes up that someone has said that bothers you, without an iota of sort of assuming that they meant something bad, to say, hey, when you said X, it made me feel Y because of Z. And then, letting that person have the chance to say, oh my God, no, that's not what I meant at all. I meant I need a large coffee or whatever. They might have something completely in their own world that had nothing to do with you. So I think catching how quickly you conflate what you're hearing with what is the truth.
I think that what you're talking about, the gift of like continuous recovery, and when I say continuous, like not using and actually doing the work, is that I have the courage now. I have the confidence to say, to ask those questions and not just hide out. Because before, what I would do is I'd go talk to everybody else except for the person I needed to talk to.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I'd process the hell out of it, which, you know, doesn't always work out because everybody's got an idea. And it's only, you know, for lack of a better term, the horse's mouth. They're going to tell you what's really going on.
Well, and sometimes then you create more problems because you're talking about somebody else to somebody else, and then, you know, it can be character, you know, like, I don't know, it can get a little sticky.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like that shampoo commercial. They told two friends, and then they told two friends, and so on.
So on and so on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I definitely have, in my own experience, I definitely have I definitely have had the tendency to, because of I actually had a conversation with a friend about this recently because of an old narrative I have in my head about myself, that there was something that was going on between she and I immediately fitted into this narrative I had about myself. And, you know, because of recovery, I was able to pause in that conversation and then own in the immediate, like, actually, I need to acknowledge this is my shit. And I bring that up because there's something about involving another person in my feeling okay about myself that always makes me feel a little weird. For example, you know, there's that line in the big book about, you know, if we are bothered by some person, place, or thing, it's something that has to do with us, right? And so if I take that a step further, it makes me think, well, then I need to remedy or reconcile what's happening in me without involving other people, right? So I guess my conflict with that is, like, if Bonnie Violet has bothered me, I shouldn't try to get Bonnie Violet to change her life or change who she is in order for me to feel okay.
Right.
But that's a process. I mean, it's like, because while we're talking about this, I'm thinking about my third to fourth year, or fourth to fifth.
Yeah.
Anyway, a friend of mine, Stephanie, shout out. She's you were so angry, and I think that like you either come in angry, or you come or anger,
or you get angry.
You get angry, but you get and I was sitting and thinking. I remember times where I was seeing red, and folks were doing whatever. There was no reason why, like looking back now, there was no reason why I need to stay in it. But I was basking in it. I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying in this anger. And what you said earlier is like knowing, you know, getting to this place. I feel like, number one, I needed to honor it, but I also needed to do the work around it. I need to honor it, meaning not just dismiss it as just me having a bad day, but there was something that was causing that there, whatever it was. You know, maybe it was the flood of emotions that I didn't know how to deal with. And so the only thing I could deal with, the only thing I could, anger was something I understood, you know?
The real problem is that anger feels good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Righteous indignation feels good. It feels, you know, you feel superior. You feel like you can, you know, these people are doing it wrong, and, you know, or I am the hurt party, and therefore I am, you know, it feels good. Being magnanimous, being generous of spirit is harder. It ends up feeling good much later. But that sort of rush of power of holding on to righteous indignation is immediately gratifying. And we have to learn to shake off that satisfaction in a search for the truth.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think sometimes the thing that's hard for me is because I think it's totally okay for me to have anger about something that you're doing. And sometimes, and I can, like, it's hard for me when I know it's my shit, but it's still my shit that, like, I still, like, if I'm in relationship with you, in good relationship with you, then I should be able to bring my shit to the table, so to speak, and like kind of work with me through it.
Yeah.
Like, I know this is
That's
my
relationship,
stuff.
It's a way you sort through bullshit, because
it's
like,
hard though.
If I sit down and I share in good faith, or in you know, like you said, and you don't know how to deal with it.
Well, yeah, part of owning our shit is sometimes being able to share it with others. It's not just about like just keeping it to us, to ourselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to go directly. I've had a number of people, especially in recovery, where, like, you know, we get a little bit more recovered and other folks are struggling. And I had one friend in particular who we were just so close, but he could never show up when he said he was going to show up. And I knew that about him, but it triggered things in me that was not okay.
Is that like showing up late?
And I could, no, it's like not showing up at
No,
all.
I was
yeah.
trying to bring it back.
Yeah.
I was trying to bring it back to Anthony.
Right, I know, right? It's always about Anthony and Anthony's
kidding, I love
failings.
And my feelings.
Oh my God,
okay.
Jalen.
I said failings, but it's probably the
Oh, Jalen writes, what do you do?
Jaylon.
Oh, sorry, Jaylon. Jaylon writes, what do you do if you address them and they totally dismiss your feelings about what you might have assumed or perceived as shade or judgment? Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, that's, like that's where you're seeing their shit, right? And I don't think you can always you can't trust that with that. Not everyone you can have that conversation with, nor is it worth it.
Yeah.
So it's not, you don't take I mean, I think it just has to be a very specific and very special relationship to be able to do that. And that sort of response is somebody who's not ready to be in relationship with
I think it's a great opportunity to be to look for generosity of spirit and say, hey, I brought this up. This is their coping mechanism.
Yeah.
This person is still coping with how to have these conversations.
Sure.
That is their first reaction, is to say, oh, I didn't mean it, or you're imagining it, and they're kind of to be dismissive of it. But maybe it gets them a step closer to being able to have real conversations down the line. But don't let that add to your anger.
Yeah.
Don't let, you've done your part now. You've done your part by bringing it up.
That's sorry about that.
Are you?
No, I don't think I am.
Is that a good time?
I'll call it. No, I'm sorry. I was going to say that's a good time to find a close person, maybe your sponsor or a therapist, to then talk about it. Because if you have a situation like Jaylon was talking about, where you approach the person, you put it out there, and they're not ready to receive it, I still need to work through it. I still need to make sure that it doesn't take me away from who I'm trying to become.
Yeah.
And so I think the best thing to do, rather than to go around and what is it, cherry pick and get everybody,
right.
try to get everybody on your side, because that's really what was happening. Is I was trying to get everybody to agree with me. I go like I'm able to do now with time, and talk to my sponsor and put it out there as neutrally, as kind of as very generally in a way, so that I can hear, because I'm not afraid now to hear, okay, yeah, Louis, you were wrong. You were an asshole about it, because I know I can be. Not when I'm with these two, but
Never.
Can I?
Yeah, no, you can. Of course you can.
I'm like, am I here? I just wanted to add, so we have one other thing. Joshua says, anger is a way to discharge pain and discomfort. Very astute
I know another way
comment.
to discharge.
One of the things we say in psych, or like one of the kind of common ideas, is that anger is immense sadness disguised, right? When you remove the anger, underneath every anger is an immense deep sadness. I wanted to respond to Jaylon, is that right? And then I wanted to go back a little bit about like controlling anger. So I've always treated, maybe in the last couple of years, this idea that, you ask for what you want and then you see what you get. And if I'm in a conversation with someone or a friend and I'm asking for something, or I'm expressing myself, their response to me is data. It has nothing to do with me. It is data. And if what I'm learning in that conversation has to do with that person's limitations, I get to decide, are these limitations I'm able to work with, or are these limitations that are just, they've taken us to an impasse.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you have to like just shut the door.
You don't have to shut the door, right? Yeah. But if that thing is kind of, you just can't move past it, then you just can't move past it. But it's data ultimately. It's just it's information.
And when you don't have those tools, because what you're talking about sounds like advanced work.
The data?
Like I think to a certain degree, like early on, maybe I wouldn't call it data, but I'll go through that. The person will respond the way they do, and I'll receive it that way, but I may not do the right thing, the next right thing, which is not make it about me or make it personal. I meant blow it out of proportion.
Yeah. And make no mistake, I don't mean to imply that that's that in every situation where I'm angry that I'm treating it as data. I 100% have a visceral reaction, and it is not calm, it is not cool, and it is not collected.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. We know.
Yeah, I know y'all know. I know y'all know.
We know.
Yeah.
We could probably play the tapes.
when we're all there. And another thing.
Right.
So I wanted to go back a little bit to talk about, Nicholas, you kind of put me here, is the idea that anger is a dubious luxury, and that it can be intoxicating, and it can also feel very good.
And so what that last comment was, that it is a way to discharge, to kind of purge, if you can funnel it right. If you get a punching bag and you get it out that way, hey, fantastic. But it's when you take it out on other people that,
Yeah, it's really kind of how you manage it. And what you do with it.
That's the direction I was going in, is basically that, in my opinion, you have to feel that anger.
It's healthy.
Yeah, you don't have to direct it at anyone, but you have to feel that anger. And that's when I turn to friends, right? That's when I, like, you start yelling and you say things you don't mean, because your friends know that you don't mean them.
Yeah.
I do think what ends up happening, if you start to get other people involved in your anger because you're angry at them, you just make things so much messier.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like it's really hard to take things back. It's really,
yeah, because language, like, as much people want to come and apologize or make amends. I've said it. It's out there, and some people hold on. I was thinking about something that I've done for the longest time, like as a Black gay man. It's like I'm constantly kind of, and it's not me alone. I'm constantly just bombarded with things that make me so mad, and I could spend the rest of my life angry. But what I do is I channel that anger into how productive I am, what I do, how I show up in my community or whatever. And it's allowed me to kind of breathe.
Yeah.
Just breathe, because it's like I can't get mad at people for what they don't know, for what they don't experience. And so, I don't want to have to get mad at everybody for what they do know and what they don't do.
Right.
So I get to just find a different way to make that work out for me.
Yeah. I feel like with time, this is definitely a gift of recovery, is that with time, I allow humans to be humans. Like, I didn't realize for such a long time I had these unrealistic expectations for what my relationship should look like and how people should behave, and right. And because I've pulled back from those expectations and I've acknowledged other people's humanity, I've been able to cultivate and sustain relationships where once, the second you wrong me, like, deuces, we're done.
That's a Virgo thing.
Yeah, for sure. I'm like,
it's a loyal
nah, you looked at me wrong.
Deuces.
Yeah, we're good.
Right.
This is step one stuff.
Well,
What? How so?
Well, it's like we're powerless over people, places, and things.
and
so as much as I want to believe, and actually this goes back to something I took down. We were talking about before step two, and I'm sorry. I want you to know that I don't speak for any program. I simply have been working the steps in a certain program, and so I get to share my experience. But when I put the speaker said, "Fucked up people do fucked up things." There's nothing personal.
Yeah, last Friday. Yeah.
Right.
And as much as I want to make it personal, it's not personal. It's like, you didn't get up and put that hat on because you were thinking that I might like you in that hat or something. You just
I wasn't. Yeah.
I don't really care. But I did wear this crown because I was thinking you guys wanted me to be regal.
I don't really care.
Is anyone else, like, through this conversation, like, saying yes and like I'll hear a lot of what you say and I'm like, yes and also.
Oh, like thinking
yes,
in a binary.
Like all improv-y, but no, like because like when you were saying like about your anger, like, sometimes like you get to be angry at somebody, like you get to, like, because that's what I really have a hard time doing, is just letting myself fuck up or make a mistake. Like, and that usually just harms me more. Obviously, there's a point to take it, but I think to some degree, if you've ever saw me angry or you've ever seen me kind of like in a way, that's probably because you matter to me in some way. You know what I mean? Because that's something that I really
hurt you because I love you.
Close.
No, I mean, I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
I think for me, it's safety. Like, for me, you have to, like, I have to be in a safe place in order to reveal such a personal, vulnerable emotion that I have. Like, other emotions I can share without any problems, but that is one that I hold very dear to me.
Yeah, I feel that.
So I think two things. What has helped me a lot in those few times that I've really become angry enough to do something stupid, the best suggestion my sponsor had said was, write a letter that you're absolutely not going to send. Like, first, don't even type it as a document first. Like, write it all out. Write this letter. Dear blah, 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 you're a freaking SOB, blah, blah, blah. Write it all out. Get it all out. Squeeze all that pus out of the wound. Get it all out. Write a letter. And then look at it again in 48 hours. Yeah. And if then you still feel like it's something you can send, you can decide then. But first of all, it just gets it all out. Everything that you want to say, sometimes you really have to say it. Right. And writing every detailed thing and another thing, whatever it is, you write it all out and then absolutely do not send. You kind of know that it's there in this little box ready to hit send if you want to. But you don't hit send for 48 hours. And just knowing that it's out kind of helps a little bit. The one that I wanted to kind of circle back because of what Bonnie was saying a little bit, I thought you were going to get to. The one that I really have a problem with is when I'm angry at myself. Mm-hmm. Like, angry at other people, I can do that. I can write it down and get it out. And usually when I look at it 2 days later, I'm like, oh, it's just not worth it. I was hurt and I reacted, and I'm glad I wrote it out, but I'm really glad I didn't send it. But when I'm mad at myself, the self-talk that I'm capable of, the negative self-talk, the abuse of things I would say to myself that I would never say to another person, that's when I start to get into a really dangerous place. And I think that's another element of this conversation, the abusive self-talk when I'm angry at myself.
Right. Well, and I think often when the anger becomes an outburst, I think it's usually like a compound anger. Like, it's not just one thing. Oftentimes it's like, as sometimes it can be like about my lack of sleep, or I'm not feeling well, or I'm angry about a few different things that are happening. You know what I mean? So I think being able to write it out or scream it out, like in a safe place, written on a piece of paper or whatever, kind of can help you sort out too. Like, is this really, like, how much anger or how much of this is directed toward this specific person or this specific situation?
It makes me think of, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No.
Okay. It makes me think of the idea that every experience we've ever had has led us to the very moment we're in, and it also makes me think about how anger is this multifaceted emotion. And typically, I think with me at least, it's the story of my life that comes through in this anger, and I say that because I think it's an opportunity for me, at least at where I am in my recovery, is to really fucking love on myself to the point of, anger being turned inward. I've heard depression described that way, that depression is just anger turned inward, because it was safer for us to turn it onto ourselves than to turn it out onto something in our environment. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. And I think you can salve an anger wound with compassion.
Yes.
That's something that I really try to do for myself. And when I find myself angry with myself, is just be like, girl, it's reasonable. Like, what you're going through, is it reasonable? If it's reasonable.
How do you cultivate compassion for yourself? Because I think that's very hard for recovering Catholics, there's a lot of beating oneself up feels like a necessity.
Bonnie, you started to talk about it, like this giving ourselves permission to be angry, be angry with someone. Because I think that, like, you come into recovery and without knowing, and probably without anyone saying, like, let me just speak for myself. I'm like thinking, I've got to do all of this perfectly. I've got to do this. Mm-hmm. I can't do this. I can't be this. I can't be that. And the truth of it is I'm not perfect, and I'm never gonna be perfect.
We're not God.
I think that when I find myself in a situation, like we talked about this ad nauseum, situation that I had with a friend where I wasn't sure we were going to find our way back to each other, and time. Yeah. Allowing myself to be angry, but also giving myself time, not feeling like I need to make this situation better. Right. The situation is what it is, and I need to feel what I'm feeling, but not in a way that is detrimental to me.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't taking any responsibility for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm like a big person that you cannot transmit something you haven't got. So I learned how to give myself compassion by receiving compassion from those who could meet my anger with compassion. And so I think, I remember one of my close friends, Tony, she used to always say, like she used like, that seems reasonable. You know, like she said, oh, that seems reasonable when things were happening. And that was something that really started to stick in my head. And it's something like, when I'm in a spot, I'm like, is this reasonable? Like, look at everything, take a quick inventory and be like, what I'm feeling and whatever, is it reasonable given everything that's going on? And if it is, then I don't know, it can help me just feel just a little bit better about my situation. And so you might also hear me say that a lot.
And if you catch that it's not reasonable, maybe it's because you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired.
Exactly. That's more information.
Data. More data. Before we read this, Ricky, thank you for messaging in.
Yes, thank you.
I want to ask folks at home to share experiences that have been healing, ways that you've been able to get past resentment and get past anger. And in general, I want to help us land there so we can share that stuff with folks that are listening in. So Ricky writes, I have to keep it simple. I don't have the luxury to stay in anger because it affects me physically and mentally like drugs and alcohol. If I have perceived someone stressing me repeatedly, etc., I set a boundary. I don't engage. Example, had someone call me a faggot this year. I tell myself it's not all about me. Self-care. Thank you for sharing with that. That's a very vulnerable
and a very good example.
And a very good example.
Some of those things where it's like, yeah, you can be mad. You should be like, there's good reason, you were harmed by somebody.
Right.
But it's like that whole thing when they talk about, you're taking poison.
Yeah,
you're drinking.
Yeah, and expecting
justifiable anger it still ends up affecting you. So thank you, Ricky.
Yeah, I think there's like the Buddhist story where they say like being angry is like holding a hot coal tightly. Go ahead.
Was one of the things that I was thinking of, like in some of this conversation, I think like racial, transphobic, homophobic, sexist, misogynist, all those sorts of things are like reasonable things to get upset about. And I think I see a lot of that in recovery settings where people are really struggling with that. And I think, for folks who are maybe listening that are struggling in a particular recovery room or setting, that, you might do well to try to find somebody or find other people who have a shared sort of challenge in that way, so that sometimes I think that challenge kind of goes away at the door, or you can say something that you feel like you can't say in those other places because it's just going to fall on deaf ears. So, if it's around like BIPOC or racial issues, finding a BIPOC meeting. If it's around a trans meeting or recovery setting, if you're able to find those in person or online or that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The one technique that really helped me in therapy is going back to what Nicholas was saying about like the things that you say to yourself that are really harmful, is imagining myself talking to a child that way and seeing how my body responds. Right. Similarly, as if I find myself kind of confused or angry or frustrated, I imagine that like baby me is standing in front of me and is telling me this is what they're experiencing. And then I see how my body responds to this child. And typically what that's done is it's changed my mind frame and I become loving and compassionate. And it just seems natural, right, to do that for a child.
Yeah. And we often learn those responses because we weren't shown them when we were younger. And so, a lot of, at least for me, as we get older, a lot of my work is like that inner child bullshit stuff, but I love it. Like it's been really helpful for me to kind of be, really touching those parts of myself that are still wounded from my childhood, so that I can let go of them. Because otherwise they just stick with me and they come out in these weird ways when you're like, acting like a 10-year-old at your job because, something's triggered and, that's something that happened from when you were young.
Right. Nicholas, are you going to say something?
No. I'm actually was just kind of very taken with that sort of image of talking to oneself as a child. Sometimes I feel like I don't want to let myself off the hook. Like, who am I to let myself off the hook? If it's someone else should hear what I've done wrong and tell me like, that I was not bad or that I was bad or whatever. But to have the sort of grace to say to myself, you did the best you could, or you didn't do the best you could, but you'll do better next time, or whatever. It has always felt to me hard to let myself off the hook. It's a very, like, I grew up with the world where you kind of tell the priest in the box what you did wrong, and only when they give the absolution and you do your penance can you move on.
Right.
And then once I realized I didn't believe in that anymore, I didn't know how to release. I don't know how to tell myself, treat myself with compassion. And I think just that, picture yourself as a kid, and how would you help that kid get further along in the process of their life? You wouldn't do it with anger and abusive words. You would do it with supportive direction, and that should count for yourself too.
Yeah, and I do just want to intersect with that. I know for when I first started trying to do this, I have a hard time picturing like me as a child or picturing a child because I don't remember. So like it was suggested to use a stuffed animal as a representation of my inner child, and so that's how my seahorse is an animal.
And
Going
we
back
come full
to 20
circle.
questions, yes. So that's my inner child, and that's who I would talk to, or that's who I hug or connect with, kind of when I'm in those moments as well. So people,
We were talking about compassion, and I was thinking we talk about a lot not judging or placing assigning wrong value on situations, meaning like what I've been through my life, my addictions, all that stuff. Instead of looking at it as like I was a bad person or whatever, or I was a good person or whatever, it just was. It was the method that I chose to get through something that I could not deal with.
what had happened.
Yeah.
Right. I think if there's one message that I would want folks to hear, and it's one that it took me a long time to hear, is that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
You're a human having human experiences. Even the worst of us
That's fucking hard.
have a story.
To be human.
Yeah.
It's
Just to be
hard.
human, like if you felt it, if you thought it, it's been felt and thought before.
Yeah.
I think
Has
that
it?
I think so. I mean, humans have been around for how long?
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing's original at this point.
Yeah.
Nora writes,
How dare you?
how dare you? Nora writes, a lot of time I need to check into myself and question, is it fear-based? Yes. Yeah.
Some of the time we need to treat ourselves the way we treat other people, because sometimes I'm so much more willing to give up another person grace over something. Like this is on that. I have this specific body type, and I have seen guys out there who have this body type, and I'm like, oh God, he's amazing. But I look at myself in the mirror and say, yeah, blob, you need to get to the gym. What are you thinking?
It makes me think about, there's so many like stories in my head. There's that one that common Indian story about how if you had two warring dogs, which dog wins? It's the dog that you feed. I think similarly, as I get some time in the program and recovery, and I notice that the parts of me that I feed are the ones that grow inside of me. It's kind of like if you focus on the problem gets bigger. You focus on the solution gets bigger. Similarly, if I am focused on cultivating loving relationships, which means I'm walking through fear sometimes, right? Sometimes I'm nervous to be around people. But that's the effort it takes. You have to cultivate compassion and love in the same way that you have to cultivate happiness. It doesn't just happen. You have to work for those things.
Right. And we're getting low on time, and so I wanted to give Nicholas a chance to share
tell us
anything
everything
else that might be on your mind that you'd like to share before we go.
Well, no, I mean, I just think that last comment from, was it Nora, about checking if it's fear-based is the first thing that I do. I kind of mentioned it at the beginning because it reminds me, there was this book that we had to read in the 5th grade called Island of the Blue Dolphins, and it has stuck with me ever since. And it's this like Polynesian island, and the whole island is getting ready to move from one island to another because it's monsoon season or whatever. And everybody leaves, but they left one girl behind. And it's like this story of just like, holy shit, they left me. And how am I going to survive? And I just remember relating to that so much, that fear of like, everyone is being taken care of except me. And I'm going to be left behind. I'm going to be, and I didn't even have like abandonment problems in my life. I was lucky enough to have a supportive family, and yet I have abandonment issues. I feel like the world is going to leave me behind, and that fear is what generally underlies when anger rears its head for me. It's this, and when my first sponsor told me the phrase self-centered fear, I had to spend a lot of time thinking about what that meant. It's just, I'm not going to get taken care of. And all evidence is to the contrary. All evidence is that the whole time I've been in the palm of God's hand, whatever you want to call that, the universe, the spirit, whatever. I've been taken care of because here I am on a talk show with 3 queer people, I assume, just
Safe assumption.
you know,
No, yeah.
or queer adjacent.
No,
And talking about experiences and pains that it started out so many years ago, and I'm really in a good place now. I still live in anxiety, but that's just the life.
I'm on Wellbutrin and Trinalex for my anxiety. Okay. So we literally have 4 minutes left. I don't know why I said literally, but we have 4 minutes left. So let's tell folks how they can get a hold of us.
So you can always reach me on the Instagram at LouisLou86, and I got some new fun pictures there. I've been having a lot of fun.
And you can find me on all the socials or at my website at aqueerchaplain.org. I have lots going on this month.
You can find me on Instagram, kind of, at A Lucas.
He's never there.
CCC on Instagram.
But still try to message him. Maybe that'll get
If
him.
you message me on there, I will
Get him to
100%
you.
respond to you. If you tag me in a picture, I will most
So
likely
basically
approve
we're-
it.
You can meet him
We're
at the
basically we're
hotspot.
blaming you,
What?
the audience.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, I'll start posting pictures on there. Now is not the time.
Nicholas,
Right.
And you can't find me anywhere. I'm sort of on the Facebook, but if you need to get in touch with me, I'm Brandon's sponsor at the country club. Just find him; he'll get me.
Nice.
All right.
And you can reach Brandon by emailing us at podcast at. Is that right? Podcast at Castro Country Club.
Mhm.
.org.
And we
Yeah.
always love to hear from you all, and we'd love to. Oh, this is your part. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So the Castro Country Club is a clean and sober gathering place for all people and a home for the queer recovery community. We're located in the heart of the Castro district of San Francisco, and we endeavor to be a space where all can seek wisdom, serenity, courage, and joy. And you'll find more information again at castroCountryClub.org, our new lovely website.
I thought he said he remembered this.
It's okay.
Okay.
And
I got a little thrown off because you two were like jumping the gun.
It just made sense. It was like it had a nice rrhythm. Anywho,
go.
so we would love to hear from you. We do have a lovely speak pipe. You go to the link in the description, you click on that, and you can leave us a little audio message that we could then play over our next episode.
It's true.
Absolutely.
It's true.
And you can get us anywhere you podcast.
Right, wherever you
Yeah, we're on all the podcast places.
Yeah.
Spotify, YouTube, Apple, what are the other
all of that
places?
stuff.
All
Yeah.
the other
Join
places.
us each week live.
Tuesdays.
If you dare.
Yeah.
Yes,
Tuesdays.
Tuesdays.
Live
4
Tuesdays,
p.m.
Pacific Standard Time. Sorry, go ahead.
Facebook, YouTube at CCC
Yeah.
or Castro Country Club. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once again, it's like
Sorry.
we speak for ourselves. We don't speak for any particular recovery. Just we dive in where we dive in, and I want to make that clear.
Yeah, we are only representatives of ourselves.
Nothing else.
Yeah, there was
Thank
one other
goodness.
there was one other thing.
That was-
What?
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, and as usual, if you see us on the street, say hi. That's
Yes,
really cool.
please
I really
do.
like that. And is that it?
I think it is.
I think that's
I
it.
think that's
Thanks
it.
so much. We'll
All
see
right.
you all next
Bye.
week.
We love
Thanks,
you.
guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks you. Nice having you, Nicholas.
Yes.
Yeah.
My
thanks.
pleasure.
Bye.
Take care.
Yeah.